Yeah, good evening and welcome to this Pesach edition of Just Daf It, Daf Yomi Shir led by the one, the only Ben Zion Lang. Today we'll be learning Maseches Yevamos, Daf Mem 40. We're actually concluding the first of the three volumes of Art Scroll on Maseches Yevamos. For those Daf Yomi learners who do not have an Art Scroll, go get one. It's important to have. I do all my shiur from the Art Scroll. Personally, I learned the Daf Yomi first in Hebrew and then Aramaic, and then I go through it in Art Scroll to go over it to get it clear. I don't always follow the Art Scroll's opinion, but it definitely makes it clear things, and I don't find anything wrong with that. Do you? Um, anyway, I hope you had a good first days of Pesach. You're seeing this after a second day of Yom Tov. If you're upset that you have to go have two Siddharim, come to Israel, make Aliyah. It's worth it just for that. Just for that. Just to have one Seder, not have 2 days of Yontiv. Some people I speak to, they're like, "Oh, we love having 2 days and 3 days of Yontiv." I can't believe that they actually believe that. If you follow the halachas and you don't do malacha on Yom Tov and Shabbos, and you don't shower, it makes life very difficult. Personally, I take a shower every night. Um, I know there's a lot of people that don't take a shower every night. I don't know why you wouldn't take a shower every night. Shower is enjoyable. Keeps you clean. It keeps you fresh. Why wouldn't you take a shower every night? I don't understand that. And when you have these 2 day Yom Tov or 3 day Yom Tovs, you can't take a shower every day. Some people are making whatever on Yom Tov. I don't know. But most poskim say you're not supposed to take a shower or do everything you want in the shower, like wash your hair normally or dry yourself normally. Anyway, we've gone a little tangent over here. Tonight we'll be discussing um, a couple of things. We're going to talk about shnios. If you remember about shnios, secondary arayos by a chalutza. If that doesn't interest you, then the first part of the share probably will interest you, where we actually do talk about matzah on Pesach. Interesting. It always works out this way that the Gemara in Daf Yomi somehow relates to the Yom Tov. I found it amazing that the Gemara actually quotes Lechem Oni in our Daf, on Daf Mem. The first day of Pesach, already learning Lechem Oni. And of course, in honor of the Yom Tov of Pesach, I'm giving Enoch Ben Sion on that topic. I find it interesting to talk about Pesach on Pesach. Given opportunity during Daf Yomi, Lechem Oni, we'll find out exactly what the true matzah is. If you saw, I have a little cute video before Pesach, the real Seder, where I mentioned that the real matzah would be pitas or things like that. You know what? I have a proof from today's Gemara that's actually true, and that the crackers that we eat, that are generally eaten and consumed for matzah, are only b'diavad. You would be yotze, but it's only b'diavad. And that's going to be Ben Sion. You don't want to miss that. Proven from the Gemara. Let's get started. The Gemara says Lamitam and Bees. That's where we're left off. About 7, 8 lines from the bottom. In the middle line, Montana Lahadana Rabban. Who's the author that says the Brisa? Yevamo Yavo Allah mitzvah. The mitzvah Yavo Allah tells you that it's a mitzvah. What is the meaning of this Brisa? The Brisa says originally a woman, right, before she married your brother, she's mutter to you. Nesra, she became Aser when she married your brother. The Chazra Hutra, and then when your brother died without children, she became Mutter. Yachol Tachsel Rishon. You might think she goes back to original Heter. Talmud Lomer Yavo Ala mitzvah. There's some limitation. There is a mitzvah to Yibam, but whatever the Bryce is telling you, there's some limitation. What does that mean? Montana. So how do we explain this Bryce? Who is the author? Amar Rav Yitzchak Bar Avdimi. Abba Shol. It's Abba Shol's opinion, who says that nowadays we don't do Yibam because people are concerned. People are doing the Shem Noy, the Shem Isha, so they're doing it for not a pure motive, and therefore it's correct. It's close to being mamzerus. Yevamo has to have the right intention to do yibum, otherwise it's not a mitzvah. Abba Shol, how do you explain the brayso? Yevamo Yavo allow mitzvah. Originally, before she was married, you're allowed to marry her. Ratza l'shem noi konsa, ratza l'shem ishat konsa. You can marry her for whatever reason you want. You gotta get married to a woman because she's beautiful, or because you want to be married. Nasra, Chazra, V'hutra. Then she became Aser, which means her brother's wife. Chazra V'hutra, and she became Mutter again after he died without any children. Yachal Tasla Tiarish. You might think that it goes back to the original heter that you can do it for an impure motive. Talmud Lomar Yevamos Yav lim mitzvah. He has the word lamed lim mitzvah. Even though the Bryce says mitzvah, but lim mitzvah. That's what it means, lim mitzvah. You have to do it with the right kavanah. If you don't do it with the right kavanah, it's an isser, right? Karlios mamzer, maybe not a mamzer, but it's an isser. You're not doing a mitzvah. You might even be doing an erva, right? That's what it seems according to this reasoning, this way of interpreting the Brisa according to Abba Shaul. Rava argues, give a different explanation. Amar, you can even explain this Brisa being attributed to the Rabbanan. The Hachikam, who say that practically you could do mitzvah even without the right kavanas. Mitzvah, right? It's a mitzvah. You could marry this woman. You choose not to marry her. Nasra, assuming she agrees to marry you. Nasra, then she became Asr. She became married to your brother. Her brother died out of children. She's mutter. You might think she goes back to the original heter. Ratza konza. So the Gemara asks, Ratza konza, Ratza ena konza, right? You might think it goes back to the original heter that you could either marry her, you could do yibum, or not do yibum. So the Gemara says, ena konza. You can choose not to and just leave. Hagida be, he has to at least do a chalitza. She just leaves the construct of yibum without a chalitza. El ema ratza konza ratza chalitza means either he wants to marry or he can do chalitza. Mitzvah. This, according to Rabbanan, would mean that the mitzvah is preferable to do yibum over chalitza. Right? This would accord with the opinion that say nowadays, even according to Rabbanan, the mitzvah of yibum is in effect. It even proceeds as precedence over the mitzvah of chalitza. But it doesn't mean chalitza is not a mitzvah. It just means that yibum is the preferable mitzvah. Ema reisha. So let's try to prove. Say the beginning of this Bryce. This is the safe of the Bryce. Now we're gonna cite the beginning of the Bryce. Matzos teichal b'makom kadosh. This is talking about a korban mincha. A korban mincha is brought for certain things in the base of Mikdash. Basically consists of flour, and then the Kohen does a komet. So he takes 3 fingers full, and he takes up, and he's maked on his beach, and the rest of the mincha is baked and it's eaten by the kohanim. Matzahs tochal macham kodesh mitzvah. Matzahs are eaten in a holy place, a mitzvah to eat the korban mincha. Whatever you bake from the korban mincha, you're not eating raw flour. Originally, it was mutter, right? You could eat this bread before it became kodesh. Before someone was makadish, makdish is the base of mikdash, the korban mincha. Nesra. Once he's makdish, it's kodesh. Even a kohen can't eat it. Once you take the komes and burn on the mizbeach, then the rest of the mincha is much of the kohanim. You might think it goes back to the original heter. It's a mitzvah. So Rav, according to Rav, the second explanation, he says this brisa is in accord with the Rabbanan. That's how we'd explain this brisa. Originally, it was mutter to eat it. Ratza ochla, ratza ena ochla. If he wants to eat it, he could eat it. If he wants to not eat it, he can not eat it. Like Ratza, he wanted to marry the woman, he could marry her. If he didn't want to, he didn't have to marry her. Ratza, Ochla, Ratza, Nasra, Chazar, Hushri, Yachadaso, the Rishon. Ratza, Ochla, Ratza, Ena, Ochla. I'm reading the parentheses, it makes more sense to read the parentheses. Ratza, Ochla, Ratza, Ena, Ochla. So when it goes back to Rishon Heter, he could eat it or not eat it. So the Gemara questions first this way of reading it. Ratza, Ena, Ochla. If he wants to, he cannot eat it. No one can eat it. All the Kohanim could desist from eating it. The only way the Bailam get kapara for this korban mincha, when they bring korban mincha for certain aviros or certain things they did, is that the Kohanim have to eat it. If they don't eat it, then they get kapara. So the Kohanim are forced to eat this korban. They can't have an option of not eating it. The Brisa means to say, according to Rabbah, that means either he, the Kohen, could eat it, or he give it to a fellow Kohen. I mean, the Kohen's makriv, the kometz, he can eat it, or a different Kohen could eat it. I tell you that it's a mitzvah to eat it for the Kohen, presumably who's makriv. Usually the Kohen is makriv, the kometz is going to eat he's entitled to eat it. So it's a mitzvah to eat it. Like we said, it's a mitzvah to eat it. It's preferable to eat more makalit. So it's preferable to eat it over to pass it over and give it to another Kohen to eat it. And that's how we explain it according to Rava, according to the Rabbanan in this brisa. El Rav Yisrael Avdimi, who interprets the brisa as going according to Abba Shaul, Damar Abba Shaul, according to Abba Shaul, And mitzvah means le mitzvah, that if you do it, it's a mitzvah. If you don't do it, if you do it the wrong way, it's an avera, right? So my tregavni ika here. There's no avera here. Maybe you'll tell me the Bryce means to say either you can eat it when he's hungry, or you can eat it when he's full. Which I guess would be an avera. We know sometimes to eat an achila gasa would be an avera. Achila gasa. The more questions, achila gasa mishma achila. Is it even called eating it? Amar Reish Lakish. Achila gasa milk yibaron potter. Lo suuna. If you eat a ton on Yom Kippur, the point that it's achila gasa, you're not going to be chayav for that because it has lo suuna. You have to. It says the way Yom Kippur. It doesn't say don't eat. It says. You have to afflict yourself. So if you're eating achila gasa, you're afflicting yourself. It's painful to eat too much. We must be forced to interpret it. If he wants to eat it matzah, you can eat it as matzah, meaning when it's not brought, the bread didn't rise. Ratza chametz, you eat it as chametz. If you're familiar with Pesach, there's matzah and there's chametz. If you're not familiar with that, then you might not be Jewish. This time of year, people are very familiar with matzah and chametz. How could it be Ratza Chomet? How could it even be entertain the thought that you're going to eat it chametz? You let it rise. It says not the only time that you eat things matzah. Basically, a lot of time eating matzah. It says you shouldn't bake. The kohanim shouldn't bake into chametz. The shire and mincha was left over the kar mincha. They shouldn't bake into chametz. Right? It's not just on Pesach they eat matzah. In the base of Mikdash, a lot of times they eat matzah for the carbonah. Even the kohanim, they can't bake it chametz. It has to be matzah. So the Gemara finally gives away resolving it according to Rizk Bar Abdimi, according to Apashol. If he wants to eat it matzah, he could eat it. If he wants to eat it cholot, he could eat it. Cholot. Cholot means that it's scalded. Scalded in what? That's the question. This is the topic being Ben Sion. Rashi learns scalded in hot water. They scald the raw dough in the hot water, and then they bake it. I have a different explanation of cholot. I want to say they scald the dough, not in the oven. Not they scald the dough in hot water. That's basically one of the mitzvah. I'm going to explain it a little more. So the Gemara is high cholot heichidami. This burning is well considered cholot where he scalds it. What are we talking? Eat matzah. If it's matzah, matzah. It's matzah. If you allow matzah, matzah zamar rahmana. If cholot makes it, if he scalds it, we're going to go with Rashi's explanation over here in the regular Daf It. If he scalds the dough in hot water, so that's not. If it's not matzah, then it's not fulfilling the pasuk. Really, it is matzah. In fact, the Torah repeats it a second time is la'akiv. Now, the way they explain it here, according to Rashi explains la'akiv normally means that you're not yotzei the mitzvah. La'akiv means there's l'chatchila, and la'akiv, the Torah repeats the pasuk a second time, telling you you're not yotzei. Here, it doesn't mean la'akiv, it just means l'chatchila, you're not supposed to scald it. If you do scald it, then it's okay. Elacholot matzahi the kamri l'mai helchasa. It just means you're not supposed to do that. And the problem over here is that it comes out according to this way of reading the Brisa is that cholot is called matzah. It is called matzah. Rashi explained. Look, I think you're not supposed to do it like that. But according to Apashol, by Yibum, if you do it l'shem noi or l'shem ishus, you're karov. It's aser and it's karov yos mamzer. Not exactly l'chachila, but yeah. Elacholot matzah hig the karminal my hilchasa. So, and also this line of the Gemara is problematic. When we say cholot is matzah, what in regards to what? It sounds like the Gemara is saying cholot is not considered matzah. So the Gemara says, "Lo mer she'adam yotzei b'yidei Pesach." You're yotzei the first night of Pesach. Yotzei with matzah that you're cholot after the chalti mikara, even though you scalded it in hot water originally. It came with the hadar afi b'taner, then you baked it in the oven. Lechem oni karina bay. It's called poor man's bread. It's not called matzah. It's called lechem oni. Pesach, technically, you can be also your mitzvah on the first night of Pesach. Even if you don't eat matzah, you eat lechem oni, poor man's bread. I would say crackers, poor man's bread. A little hint toward Ben Sion, poor man's bread. So yotzei on Pesach, even though technically maybe not yotzei like our mincha. All right, the Mishnah says, "Hacholitz liyavimto hareyu ke'echem na'achim." Someone does chalitza to his yavama, he is treated like one of the brothers. L'nachala, meaning as opposed to the person who does yibum, he would get the entire estate of his brother. He doesn't. Someone who does chalitza, he's like one of the brothers, and therefore, they all did chalitza eventually, right? If the brothers are inheriting, so they divided evenly. If there's a father, we'll see the father inherits before the brothers, and then he would get the same portion with his brothers from the father. If there's a father, it goes to the father. If he does chalitza, if he does choose to do yibum, then he gets the estate of his brother. This is an interesting sheet. He says technically, in terms of inheritance, the father has precedence over the brothers. So Yehuda says even if the guy does yibum, he still wouldn't get the estate of the yavam. He would get his wife, maybe have a child for him, but he wouldn't get the estate. The estate would go to the father if there's a father. When we're saying that he gets the estate, it's only time when there's no father. There's a father, the father would inherit. So there's pshita. The first part of the Mishnah is pasha. He doesn't get inheritance. He does chalitza only if he does yibum. No, we had a havamina. Maybe he does chalitza. It's like doing yibum. Nishkal kulu nichsi. I'll take all the nechasim of his brother that he did chalitza to to his wife. Kamash Milan. He's like one of the brothers. Should have said, instead of saying he's like one of the brothers, instead of said, you might have he gets the whole thing. He said, he's only like one of the brothers. It sounds like Echem and Achim was like a chiddush, like we thought he gets nothing, and now he gets something. He destroyed the opportunity for Yibum, which would be a knas, Rabbanah. They shouldn't even get even a portion with his brothers. They weren't konis him, he does get a portion. Av. The Amar Mar, Av Kodem L'chol Yotze Yerecho, right? Normally in Baba Basra it says that the father comes before all of his children, right? The children of the father include the brother of the deceased. So he comes before the brothers. That's what we learn there. Hakon is vimto, my time. Why does he get the inheritance? Yakom al Shem Achiv Amar Rachman Avarei Kam. Says someone, the inheritance goes to the person that's Kam al Shem Achiv. And this person reestablished this dead person's deceased brother's house. So therefore he gets his inheritance, his estate. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Amar Ula Hachlach Rabbi Yehuda. Ula says, Allah follows Rabbi Yehuda, that the father always gets, even if the guy does Yibum. The father follows Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Ula Vitim Rabbi Yitzchak Naf. My time with Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason Rabbi Yehuda? Dichsiv, Aya Bechor Shar Teiled, Ki Bechor. It calls him a Bechor. It calls the Yavam Bechor. Ma Bechor, Ein Lo B'chaye Av. Just like a Bechor, while his father living gets nothing, right? He only inherits from his father when double inheritance from his father when he dies. Afhai notal pishnayim, afhai nami ein lo b'chayav. This person also, when his father's alive, he doesn't get any inheritance. Ima b'chor notal pishnayim lachar mitzvah. If normally a b'chor, he would get double inheritance from his father. Afhai notal pishnayim lachar mitzvah. So you can say the yavam, he's originally getting nothing. When his father dies, he can still get a double inheritance from at least the estate of his of the Yavam, the brother. So the Gemara rejects that. Midi Yakum al Shem Aviv Ksiv Yakum al Shem Achiv Ksiv. It's only when he reestablishes his brother's house. Now he's reestablishing. He's taking from his father. He's reestablishing his father's house. Lo Shem Aviv. So the Gemara says Ema Heicha Deleka Av Lishkol Nachala. This guy misses Yibam. So if we're really being dependent on the father being there or not, if there's no father, then he gets the nachala and he's doing the mitzvah yibum. The lo shakal nach. He's not going to get the inheritance according to Yehuda. Lo, this guy mitzvah yibum. Maybe there's no mitzvah yibum when the father's alive of the brother. The Gemara says midi yibum and nachala talar rachamana. The mitzvah of yibum has nothing to do with nachala. Even though previous Gemara is connected, that's only in terms of making it a paternal brother is chayav in yibum. Because a maternal brother is not. There's no mitzvah of yibum. But really, obviously, mitzvah yibum is independent of inheritance. He happens to inherit it, but it's independent. Yibum may miyabma. Torah means to say yidu yibum. Yinachla shakul evi lo shakel. If he's unable to get inheritance, there's no father. He gets a nachla. If he's not, he doesn't get it. Yasir Rabchina Kara Kamed Rabbi Yana. Rabchina, who used to read psukim, sat in front of Rabbi Yana. Yasir Kamar Allah Yehuda. He said Allah calls Yehuda. Amrle po kari echlabara ein Allah Yehuda. He told him. Rabbi Nachman told him. Rabbi Yana told him. He said, go tell everybody, no, this is not the way we follow. The halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Even if there's a father, the Yavam gets the Nachla. Tani Tana Kameder of Nachman, another student taught in front of Nachman. I taught a Bryce, ain't a Lach Rabbi Yehuda. He taught the Bryce. The Lach is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Amalei, Ela Kaman, Karabana. He said, well, of course it's not like Rabbi Yehuda. It's like the Rabbanim. Pshita Yacha Ram Malach Rabbim. When Rabbi Yehuda is a Yachid, he's a minority opinion. He argues on the Rabbanim. Pshita would go to the Rabbanim. Amalei Asamya. So the student said, maybe I should get rid of this Bryce. Amalei Lo At Halacha Asniach Mukshu Hu the Akshilach. You must have had a different Bryce that said Halacha follows Rabbi Yehuda, and it bothered you, the fact, and therefore you switched it. You switched the Bryce to say the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Therefore, what you switched it to is noteworthy because obviously there's a Bryce still going around that says the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, so it's worthwhile to tell you the halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda. I have a Bryce that explicitly say halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda because there is a Bryce still going around, which is erroneously attributing the halacha to Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah says, he does chalitza to the Yevamos. Now, once he does that, right, you're usher to marry her immediate relative. He asur b'krov. It's like almost they got married. Chalitza, just like you do yibam, he'd be usher. If he married a woman, he'd be usher in a krovos. Midaraisa. Here, midarabban, they answered her in the krovos of the chalutza, and she is also usher. The chalutza is usher to the brother who did chalitza to his relatives. For example, the Mishnah continues on Memon base, who usher be'ima over aim ima of aim avia. He's not allowed to marry her mother or grandmother, or her grandmother through her father, or bita, or bas bita basmina, not any of her grandchildren, or her children, or her daughter. Right? You can't marry a woman and her daughter or her granddaughter, or bachosa, and you can't marry her sister or the chalutza's sister when the chalutza is still alive. Achin mutar, but the brothers. And his brothers, he's the one that did chalitza. He has 4 other brothers who could have done chalitza. He didn't. Only one brother does chalitza, so they're mutter to the krovas chalutza. So they're not mutter to the chalutza. They're mutter, but they are mutter to her immediate relative. He asura ba'aviv. The chalutza is asur to the person who did chalitza, his father, or avi aviv, his grandfather. No, these are all because of a daughter-in-law. No, bein beno, and she can't marry his son and his grandson. He can't marry his brother because that would be an Esor Eshesach. And she can't marry the nephew, meaning the son of his brother. Which, right? You're not allowed to marry, a woman's not allowed to marry her nephew. A man is allowed to marry his niece, but a woman's not allowed to marry his nephew. Mutter Adam Makrova Saras Kalasaso. A person is allowed to marry the relative of the Saras Chalutzaso. Meaning, you did chalitza to a woman and she had another co-wife with her, right? Your brother's married to 2 women. So therefore, the co-wife has relatives. So those immediate relatives are mutter. But asur b'saras krovas chalutzaso. But your asur in the Sarah of the krovas chalutzaso, meaning, just like you're married to the chalutza, you're allowed to marry her immediate relatives. And if those immediate relatives have co-wives also, huh? Well, yeah, it's important. Aser b'soras saras krovas chalutzaso. Without krovas saras chalutzaso, aser b'soras krovas chalutzaso. And she is aser, and he is aser. Aser b'saras krovas chalutzaso. He's not allowed to marry a co-wife, right? Just like he not marry the relatives of his chalutza, right? Like her sister or mother or daughters. He can't marry any of those co-wives. All right, Ibayiluhu. The Gemara asks, Gazru shnios bechalutza lo. Right? We know that the immediate chalutza is asur derabbanan. The krovas chalutza is only asur derabbanan. Chalutza is only asur derabbanan. Once you do chalitza, right? Obviously, the chalutza is asur midarais. You can't marry her. The chalutza after it, shalom bana, it's a lav in the Torah. The krovos are only midarabbanan. But where they goes are even shnios. Part of the gzeira of the krovas chalutza, they include shnios. Even these shnios, these secondary relatives, are they also asur for the person in chalitza? The erva d'oraisa gazru rabbanan shnios. When it's an erva d'oraisa, the one goes to shnios. Chalusa legazru shnios, but chalusa is only also the rabbanan. Her krovim are also the rabbanan, so therefore they didn't include in the krovim the shnios. So dilma loshna, maybe they did include them. Tashma, who asher be'ima? The Mishnah says, who asher be'ima be'em ima? He's asher in a mother and his mother, her mother and her grandmother. Ilu aim ima, the great grandmother lokasani. Now we know there's a shnia, so you see shnios are not part of it. The Gemara says dilma hainu tam b'delotani. The reason to say grandmother, Mishnah Gabayla Missy Seifa, it wants to say in the Seifa of the Mishnah, Achan Mutarin, the brothers are allowed to marry these krovos. Vitana Aim Ima, if it said the grandmother was included, that it was also Havamina Achan Mutarin, Dafka Aim Ima. The brothers, they were mutter only in the great grandmother of Aim Ima, Ima low. But the brothers, we would think maybe the brothers are also usher in the mother and the grandmother. And that's not true. So the Gemara asks questions: if you listen to Aim Ima, say the grandma, listen to Achim Mutar Makula, and so that we shouldn't interpret it that the Achim should be Aser, we should say the Achim are Mutar and everyone. We no problems. Kasha. It is indeed a difficulty, but it's not a disproof completely. Tashma. He has Surah Ba'aviv Avi Aviv. She can't marry his father and his grandfather. Ksani Mia Avi Aviv. Right? She can't marry his grandfather. Paternal grandfather. My love mishum chol. It's the havila kalas beno. What's the reason she can't marry him? Because she is the woman who had did chalitza. Because of the cholitz, the brother of the deceased who did chalitza to her. Because she is the daughter-in-law of his son, the grandfather, right? She's the daughter-in-law of the grandfather's son's daughter-in-law. That's what it is, right? Which is the shnia. The Gemara says, "Lo mishum misna." It's not because of the cholate; it's because of the original brother who died, and that's an erva d'oraisa. He was married to the first woman, right? So therefore, it remains married because of kalas beno, the grandfather. It's the daughter-in-law of his son, which is a shnia, but coming from an erva d'oraisa. The havli is kalas beno. Tashma obein beno can't marry his grandson. Maila mishum cholate. The reason he can't marry his grandson, Mishum Cholis, we're talking about the Cholis, his grandson, the Havile Eshes Avi Aviv, because she was the wife of the grandfather, right? The wife of a grandfather is also to the grandson. Lo Mishum Misna is talking about, no, the reason is because the Erva d'Oraisa, the original deceased brother, Havile Eshes Avi Aviv, and she is the wife of the brother of the grandson, of the grandfather, right? The great uncle. So the Gemara says, so Amemar says that it's not called a shnia. The Gemara says, Amemar mukila barbara de saba. Amemar would say this Mishnah is referring to not the grandson of this cholitz, but the grandson of the father, meaning the grandson of the father. So then we're not talking about that. The cholitz is Shimon. Shimon's father. The Bein Beno is talking about another son of the father of the cholitz and his grandson. So the Gemara says, that's it says in the Mishnah, she can't marry his brother, the cholitz's brother, Ubein Achiv, and the son of his brother. Already says it. Tana Achiv min Av, Gatani Achiv min. No, it says it twice. One to tell you there's an Isser from the brother from a paternal brother, and one from a maternal brother. Tashma, Tana Rabbi Chia, Arba Midivrei Torah, Arba Midivrei Sofra. 4 of these cases are from the Torah, and 4 are Midivrei Sofra. Av, Beno, Achiv, Behem, Achiv, Midivrei Torah. Those are arayos from the Torah for a person himself, not for the cholis. It'd be a darabana. Avi imo ben beno ben bito midivrei sofra. From those are midarabana. Ksani mia avi aviv. It says the grandfather. My love mishum cholis. Avi la kalas beno. Aren't we talking about the cholis? The kalas beno. And you see that it's called. So you see the shnios were usher. The word is long mishum misna. Havile kalas beno. No, that's actually Erva d'Oraisa. It's talking about the actual deceased brother. That's why it's for the grandfather. It's the daughter-in-law of his son. Tashma Avi Imo. It mentions in Rabbi Chia's Braisa Avi Imo, the father of the mother. My la mishum chol is the Havile kalas bito. It's the daughter. It's the grandfather's daughter's daughter-in-law. Lo mishum misna. The havile kalas bito. No, it's done the dead person himself, which is actually an erva of the daughter-in-law of your daughter. Tashma bein beno. Another isser is bein beno. Ma'ila mishum chol. It's the havile eshes avi aviv. Again, the grandfather the grandson you can't marry because it's eshes avi aviv, right? Because she's the wife of the grandfather. Lo mishum misna. The havile eshes achi avi aviv. No, like we deflected this proof before, it's talking about the great uncle. Ha Meimar Machshab he matters the great uncle to marry the the wife of the great uncle to marry the grandson. Meimar Mukim La Mishum Cholitz. Meimar is going to have to say that this is Rabbi Chia was talking about the Cholitz because Savar Gazer Shnias Bechalutz. Like before, we try to answer to say that it was talking about father of the Cholitz. But here you can't say that because we're clearly not talking about the father of the Cholitz. It doesn't say it twice. Tashma, Ben Bito. There's an Isser of the son of your daughter. Maila Mishum Cholitz, the Havila Eish Avi Imo. Isn't it we're talking about the Cholitz where it's Eish Avi Imo? Lo Mishum Misna, it's talking about of the dead person. The Havila Eish Achi Avi Imo. Because she is the wife of the brother of the grandfather, the maternal grandfather. But we see by Shnios, they didn't make a Gzera on this person. It must be talking Mishum the Chol. Now you see a clear proof that they were Gazer Shnios by Chalutza. Mutter Adam, Amar of Rakisna, Amar Shmuel, Haka, Abal, Saras Chalutza, Ablad Mamzer. Someone who has relations with the Sarah of a Chalutza, you do Chalitza as a woman, and she has a co-wife. Right? I mean, your brother had a co-wife, right? You do chalitza to one of them, and normally patters the other one. So you then you had relations with her. The vlad is a mamzer. Presumably, you violated Isra of Eshesach. My time, but Surah Kaima, she remains the Isra of Eshesach. This was a machlokas earlier on the Daf It between Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Rish Lakish says that the Isra does not go away Eshesach, and Rabbi Yochanan says she does a shlichus. She patters the Sarah also with her chalitza. Amar Rav Yod, the chalutza also. Everyone agrees the chalutza is only aser asher lo yivneh for alav. What about the sarah? Amar Rav Yosef afanan amitanina. We learned this in our mission also. Mutter andam krova sarah's chalutza also. A person is allowed to marry the krova, the relative of the sarah of his chalutza. If you're telling me the sarah is considered excluded from the chalitza of the chalutza. So therefore, he's allowed to marry her sister. If she wasn't part, she's not related to the Sarah, has no relationship with the Chalutza. Eli Amra Sarah Chalutza Dami. If you say the Chalutza Dami and the Chalitza for the woman would pater the Sarah also, and my mutter, why is he married? Why should I marry the Krova of her? Because she should be the Sarah should transform to the Chalutza. So this is lame with the heavy to the Rabbi Yochanan. I'd say this Mishnah is a disproof for Rabbi Yochanan's shoe. Amar ben hu ben ha'achin in chayav and lo chalitza kares lo sarasa kares. Says no, she performs chalitza both for her and for the Sarah. Amar Rabbi Yochanan tispura. Is it possible to say that achos chalitza daraisa? The sister of a chalutza, she assumed the raisa. When shlakish kanshan Rabbi, we're going to learn later on. Achos grusha midivrei Torah. You divorce a woman, you can't marry your sister. That's from the Torah. Achos chalitza midivrei Torah. When you did chalitza to a woman, her sister's only asum d'Rabbanan. There's never going to be real mamzerus over here. Maishna. So that's the answer to that. The question is Maishna ha, Maishna ha. Why the two cases? The end of the Mishnah says mutter on the Makrova Saras Chalitzaso. He's mutter the Krova of Saras Chalitzaso with also with Saras Chalitzaso. What's the difference? So the Gemara answer is Hach. On top of Mem Aleph Min Aleph Hachta Havya Azla Bahadalega Beidina Gazru Rabbanan. Right, the Rabbanan goes there in the case of Aser Besaras Krova Salotzaso. Right, so the Chalutza, you did Chalitza to her, so her relative, let's say her sister, her mother, will go to Beis Din to perform the Chalitza with her. People will confuse the Chalutza with her mother. So therefore, the Sarah, the co-wife of the mother, it should be Aser. But the ratio was talking, Mutter Adam Krova Saras Chalitzaso. When you do Chalitza to a woman, her Sarah, a co-wife, they're not necessarily best friends. She doesn't come with her to Beis Din. No one's going to confuse her. So therefore, they didn't ask her Krova because there's no confusion It's a long share tonight. I don't know why it went so long, but I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you later, man. See you and discuss matzah. Bye.